And welcome back to the UFO Show, the show with the hottest bets and the hottest hosts. I'm Adam, and I'm joined once again by Andy. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. How about yourself? Canucks training camp started. Baseball's winding down. NFL's going. There's lots going on.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a smorgasbord of delights right now for sports fans, especially if you follow all the sports. Baseball, I think the only one that hasn't started up really is basketball, and that's going to be starting up pretty soon.
Yeah, I think they usually start. excuse me, end of October, right? So they're probably coming quick, 3 weeks or so, I'd say.
So we're going to start with a little bit of baseball today, and then we'll move over to football. Once again, if you do have any questions, send them in. We'll try to answer them, and hopefully can win you guys some money. So we're going to start with this Toronto Blue Jays-Minnesota game. Now, before we came on, Andy and I were talking about the playoff races, and I was specifically talking about how the Mariners, if the Mariners have a chance in there. I think we're getting to the point where they don't, where it looks like it's the last playoff seed is going to come down to the Blue Jays or the Yankees. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, the Mariners have a chance, but I think they're 2.5 back right now. So, I mean, realistically, I think they got 9 or 10 games left. They probably got to win 8. And they just swept the A's, so they just won 4 in a row. So, you're going to win 12 of your last 14 games. I mean, maybe, but that seems like a pretty hot streak, right? I mean, excuse me, look at the schedule. Blue Jays have the easiest schedule. They're playing Minnesota right now. I think they have the Yankees, and they play one other team, the Orioles.
The Twins.
Yeah, the Twins. Yeah, they play Twins now. And then the Yankees play the Red Sox and the Rays. So, I mean, in terms of schedule, I'd say the Blue Jays have the easiest. Mariners have, I guess, that you could call the second easiest. So I wouldn't be writing them off. But if I had to bet, I'd say they probably missed the playoffs. But I think they have a legitimate chance.
Yeah, the Mariners, only way for Mariners to get in is through the wild card. Same with the Blue Jays and the Yankees. And even Boston, it looks like Houston and Tampa Bay have wrapped up those divisions unless Houston goes on some sort of 10-game losing streak or however many games they have left, and the Mariners just sweep. There are 9 left. It looks like that's pretty much decided. Okay, so let's talk about this Blue Jays Minnesota game. Blue Jays, it's Steve Matz versus Michael Pineda. We got Blue Jays at minus 145 versus the Twins at plus 120, and that game starts in about 30 minutes. So are you taking the Blue Jays in this one?
Yeah, I would take the Blue Jays. I mean, like we said last week, I don't like to bet on teams that have nothing to play for. The Blue Jays, like we just mentioned, haven't got a playoff spot yet. So I would take the Blue Jays here.
And we do have some boosted odds for this game. So there's 3 boosted odds. The first one is Steve Matz to record over 6+ shutouts, boosted from 105 to plus 135. Do you think Matz can get 3 or 6? Sorry.
I think you mean strikeouts, not shutouts, but
strikeouts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, Twins have a bad lineup, and if you look at Matz's season, He has 133 strikeouts and 140 and 2/3 innings. So, just under one strikeout an inning. So to get 6+, you're assuming he has an inning where he does better than his season average, or he goes 7 innings. Both things I don't think will happen. So I would probably avoid taking that bet.
The next one is Marcus Semien to have 2+ hits, boosted from 175 to 215.
Yeah, I'd be all over that. I mean, Semien is, it's kind of funny. He's having an MVP caliber type season at second base, and he's not even anywhere near the discussion for MVP. It's kind of funny how that goes, but Semien, in my opinion, is the most important player on the Blue Jays roster. And he's had a great year, so I expect him to get 2 hits, if not 3, 4, or 5. So I'd be all over that bet.
And the last one is George Springer to hit a home run.
Yeah, I mean, home runs are funny, right? Because you can hit a ball hard in one ballpark and it doesn't go out, and then you hit a soft one in another ballpark and it leaves the yard for some reason. So personally, I don't ever like betting players to hit home runs, but at boosted to plus 350, I mean, you put $5 down, you're going to get what, $18, $17 back. So it's a pretty good return. I would probably make that bet, but home runs to me are pretty much a shot in the dark. So.
And once again, if you head over to area51sportsnetwork.com/betting, you can get $600 back on your initial deposit, which means if you put down $600, you get $600 added to your spending. So they match whatever you put in up to $600. So head over to Bet99. That's where we're grabbing all of our bets from today. Now, they haven't come out with the odds for next year or whether players will re-sign or not. Do you think Marcus Semien stays with the Blue Jays, or do you think he'll cash in for one of those big money contracts from maybe the Dodgers or the Red Sox or Yankees that we've seen players do in the past?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at the Blue Jays roster, they also have to pay Robbie Ray, who's arguably been the Cy Young winner this year. You just look at the Blue Jays roster. Bichette and Guerrero Jr. are arbitration eligible this year, which means they're going to get massive pay raises. They have Biggio they have to pay. I still think the Blue Jays need a couple arms in the bullpen. They have to re-sign Jose Barrios. They're running out of money quick. If I was to bet, I would prioritize Semien over Robbie Ray. I know I just said the Blue Jays need pitching, but what Semien can bring with 40 home runs and 100 RBIs playing middle infield is very hard to replace. The Blue Jays don't really have anybody in their system that can take over at second base next year and make that type of an impact. So I would say if it was up to me, I would prioritize Semien over Robbie Ray. So to answer your question, I guess I'd say, yeah, I can see the Blue Jays bringing back Marcus Semien for sure.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting for sure when it comes to the, I guess, what's it called? The players re-signing. That's the word I'm looking for. Because I think that there will be some big money spent this offseason. So we'll see how that goes. Now, it's a little bit exciting because Bet99 has now released their we'll transition a little bit here. They have now released their NHL betting for the season and their futures for the season. So let's run down a couple of Vancouver Canuck bets before we get into the preseason here. I think the first game is Sunday. So why not? Let's just talk about it for a couple minutes, then we'll move on to football. So right now, the Vancouver Canucks have a plus 2,000 shot at winning the Pacific Division. Vegas is at minus 200. Edmonton's at plus 310. What do you think of Vancouver being third from the bottom in that category below the LA Kings?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably put them ahead of LA Kings. I think LA, they have more potential this year, but they have so many question marks on their roster. Does Drew Doughty bounce back? Does Cal Peterson have another strong year in net? How does Phil Deneau fit? Can you bring any offense? Player like Quinton Byfield, he'll be a rookie this year. What's he produce? At least with the Canucks, that they have a solid top 9 of established NHL players outside of Podkolzin. Question for me is their defense. Plus 2,000, those are enticing odds, but realistically, I don't see the Canucks finishing ahead of Vegas and Edmonton to win that division. So I'd probably pass on the plus 2,000. I don't know. What are you thinking, Adam?
I don't think they're going to win the division, honestly. I wrote about this, how if Pettersson and Hughes aren't signed by the start of the regular season, that's going to cause some major issues. Now we're hearing that there's some issues with Travis Hamonic. So you're going into a season with the right side being Tyler Myers, Tucker Poolman, and Luke Shen. If this Hamonic situation doesn't figure out, on top of that, you could be losing Hughes and Pettersson. Like, it could be a painful start to the season. And you know what? If they have a slow start, they're not winning. They're not catching up to Vegas. I don't think Vegas is going to have as good of a year as people think they are, because I don't think that they have a strong backup goaltender. And Robin Lehner has had injury problems, but I don't. If Vancouver can't get off to a start, it's just going to be battle for that third place or wild card spot by the end.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you mentioned the odds were plus 300 something for Edmonton. As much as I don't like what Edmonton's done this season, I think McDavid and Draisaitl are probably the two best players in the league. And we've seen it year after year. They're able to basically carry the Oilers single-handedly to the playoffs. So if I were to make a value play here, I'd probably pick Edmonton to win the Pacific Division.
Okay, so make the playoffs, Vancouver Canucks. Right now, plus 155, yes. Minus 193, no. Do you think that they're going to make the playoffs is the question.
I do think they're going to make the playoffs. Again, like I just said, I think they're probably the third best team in the Pacific Division. San Jose has a whole mess of problems. LA, we talked about. I'm not sure how much better they'll be. Calgary seems like they're going to be another mess. So yeah, I think the Canucks will make the playoffs, and plus 155 is actually pretty good return for your money on that bet.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but we'll see in the end. And the last one, Vancouver Canucks points, over under 88.5. If you take under, it's minus 122. If it's over, plus 100. I think it's safe to say that if we're both saying that the team is going to make the playoffs, they're going to get over 88 points. I think usually the 90 to 95 points is where most teams in the playoff race fall. I know last year was a little bit different, but yeah, it's usually around, you need to get around that 90 points. So I think bet 99, it looks like, yeah, they're taking Seattle. They're saying that Vancouver is not going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going with, out of the division, it's going to be Vegas, Edmonton, Calgary, and Seattle that make the playoffs, with, I guess, Seattle taking that wild card spot.
Yeah, see, I'm not really too high on Seattle. Like, I saw a report today, Yanni Gourde is expected to be back before Christmas, which is good news for them. Their goaltending seems to be decent. They have a nice top four on their blue line, but up front, to be honest with you, I don't know half of their players. I know Jordan Eberle, and that's, there's a few more there, but that's basically it. So I really don't like Seattle's team. I don't think they're going to be that good. The Canucks, over 88 points. I think I said I thought they'd get 95. Again, much like Edmonton, I do think that the Canucks have enough offensive weapons that they can kind of outscore their defensive issues, if that makes sense. I like the Canucks to make the playoffs. Not high on Seattle. I guess if I had to pick the three playoff spots for the division, I'd say Vancouver, Edmonton, and Vegas.
Yeah, Calgary is going to be a question mark, because by all accounts, we thought that Johnny Gaudreau wasn't going to be back. Their defense took a hit with Mark Giordano gone. Everybody thought Sean Monahan was going to get moved out. So Calgary is kind of a question mark. LA could take the next step. Edmonton, what is their defense going to look like? That's a big question mark. They have no cap room to bring in other players. They still don't have the depth that they need. But Seattle, you're missing their big piece, Cole Lind. Maybe he can provide the fourth line spark. But
that's right. Yeah, Cole Lind. The guy's going to hit waivers, and everybody's going to freak out about it.
Yeah, it'll be like Frankie Corrado all over again.
Exactly.
But you know what? If you're just one guy to watch out for, and I've talked about it on multiple episodes of other podcasts, Mason Appleton with the Seattle Kraken. I think that he's going to have a massive year, and I think that him, Brandon Tanev, and Jared McCann, they put that line together, that could be a very dangerous third line in the NHL.
Yeah, that sounds like a great third line for sure. I was following, I think it was Ryan Clark on from the Athletic, and he said that it's only day one of training camp, but he said their first line in Seattle had McCann at center between Eberle and I don't know who the left winger was, but again, that kind of speaks to my earlier comment about what I'm worried about with Seattle is that if McCann's your third line center with Appleton and Tanev, that's a super solid third line. It probably means you have a really good forward group. But if he's your first line center, I'd be definitely questioning the depth of that team.
Yeah. Okay. So let's, before we start, going down the rabbit hole of the Canucks and hockey, let's jump over to the NFL because we do have some games tonight. Or one game. We got the Carolina Panthers at the Houston Texans. Now, Carolina's at minus 425 and Houston's at plus 340. I know that Carolina has had a good start, but that line seems a little bit high because Houston hasn't played that bad. Tyrod Taylor looks good. Their defense isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. So I think that Carolina still pulls out the win, but I think it's closer than the 8.5 line that's presented.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I'm going to screw this guy's name up. David Mills or Davis Mills or something is starting for Houston. Tyrod Taylor's also injured, so I think that probably explains the massive line difference. Yeah, I mean, listen, Houston's a bad team to begin with. Now they're on their third quarterback. I mean, Carolina minus 425. You give me Carolina minus 1,000, and I'd take it. If I was in a survivor pool or taking a lock of the week, I'd take Carolina all day. The point spread's only minus 8.5. I can see Carolina winning this by 2 or 3 scores. Like, give me 15 points, and I'd still take Carolina. I think this game is going to be a complete blowout. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston gets shut out, to be honest.
Well, if Tyrod Taylor's not playing, then yeah, that changes my opinion a lot on this game. Okay, so let's jump over to where is it? It's your Packers game this weekend. Packers versus San Francisco 49ers. Now, we talked a little bit about Aaron Rodgers last week, and then he came out and shut up the world with his performance, as well as Aaron Jones, who basically won people fantasy weeks this week, including me. So
that's right.
49ers are at minus 165. Green Bay Packers are at plus 145. What do you think of this? What do you think of this line?
I mean, I think plus 145 minus 165 is a little bit too big of a spread. Just in terms of, I think these are probably outside Tampa the next 2 best teams in the NFC. One thing that does concern me, San Francisco has a very solid defense, especially a pass rush. Packers are very banged up on the offensive line. San Francisco seems to be having some success with their receivers and Jimmy Garoppolo this year. Packers secondary gets torched every week. From a pure, who do I think is going to win? I would say probably San Francisco. But at plus 145, that's pretty good odds for Green Bay. I would be leaning towards San Francisco wins this game, but Packers cover the +3 spread.
Yeah, I think that I do think that San Francisco is going to win this game. Like I know that Aaron Rodgers had a good game last week, but I still don't believe that he's back to his full self. I also, this is a weird game for me because I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo either. I think that they should just be going with Trey Lance at this point. So it's like I don't have really faith in either quarterback at the moment in this game, but I just think that the San Francisco defense is better and it's going to hold Aaron. They're not going to give up 5 touchdowns to Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
That's
the thing. You have to remember the Packers last week, they played Detroit. So
yeah.
As much as we talk about Rodgers had a good game, they're also playing probably the worst team in the league.
Exactly. Okay, so let's jump over Seahawks, Vikings. Seahawks, let's call it an embarrassing loss last week. Nobody knows what they were doing. They're at minus 125 against the Vikings at plus 110. You know what? I I have no words about the Seahawks. I don't even know how you bet on them anymore. It's just frustrating every single week. I'll say that I think that they're gonna win this week just because I think Minnesota has too many problems to overcome. But it's so frustrating watching this team and trying to bet on them.
Yes, yeah, I kind of like Minnesota in this game. Minnesota's at home. I really think that loss last week rattled the Seahawks. Like, where they up 15 points with 10 minutes to go in the game and you lost. Derrick Henry is a beast of a running back. Dalvin Cook definitely doesn't run with as much power and isn't going to run through you, but Dalvin Cook's also a very, very, very good running back. I think the game plan Tennessee kind of exposed last week of Seattle is that they're not, the defense they used to be. If you can get some running game going, you are going to wear down the Seattle front seven. So I like the Vikings in this game. Plus 110 is good odds to me at home. I think the Vikings are a better team than 0-2, and anytime you can get, favorable odds for the home team, I'd be on that bet.
Yeah, last week you had the Seahawks defense looking like Oli Olevi after conditioning training.
That's right. Yeah, it was a rough game for the Seahawks on defense.
I do want to bring up this one thing that one of our friend of the show, Bick Nazar, tweeted back in 2017, and that is every Seahawks game is different. Every Seahawks game is the same. I don't think that is a more true fact out there. It is just every Seahawks game might play out different, but it's basically the same game every single time. It comes down to the final play of the game, and when it really shouldn't.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the Seahawks, right? Is that, last week's a perfect example. You're up 2 scores with, 10 minutes, whatever it was left, and you somehow managed to go into overtime. Like, as a bettor, the Seahawks always scare me because they always put themselves in positions where, it's one player or one kick or something, one thing goes wrong and they win or lose the game. When I'm making my bets, I try to avoid that kind of situation as much as possible, because then you take out the, you take out the consensus of sort of who's the better team, right? Much like when you go to overtime in hockey, one shot, you can have 10 shots the whole game, but if you get one good shot in overtime, you can win the game. So Seahawks, I don't know how Seahawks fans do it. They always manage to give their fans a heart attack. That's for sure.
I think we're just used to it at this point, honestly. Like, we know you can't sit normally on this team. So, and yeah, it's just frustrating. Okay, so let's talk about a couple more games. Las Vegas Raiders, Miami Dolphins, Vegas minus 190, Dolphins at plus 165. Now, I'm surprised that this line is so close, knowing that Tua is not playing.
Yeah, Tua's out. I'm kind of surprised by this line as well. I think, Vegas is probably a little bit lucky to be 2-0 this year. Derek Carr's played pretty good so far overall. I know that probably sucks for you, Adam. You're a Mariota fan club member, but on this line, especially with Tua out, I don't think Miami has enough talent to really stop the Raiders. So I'd take the Raiders money line. Raiders minus 3.5. That seems about right. I'd probably take the money line on the spread on that bet.
Exactly. And also, they're playing with Jacoby Brissett. No offense to Jacoby Brissett, but what has he done in the NFL? He was a starter in Indianapolis, and they obviously went and got Phillip Rivers instead because they were like, we can't have this guy as our starting quarterback. He's one of these guys that's bounced around the league, and it's just now he gets a shot. Let's see what he can do. But the hopes aren't very high, I don't think, for Jacoby Brissett. I don't think there's a way that he wins the starting job over Tua.
No, definitely not. I mean, he had that good season 4 years ago when Andrew Luck retired, 2 days before the start of the season. But yeah, I agree, Adam. I just don't think Brissett has enough talent to lead that Dolphins team to victory.
Mm-hmm. And we'll throw out one last game here before we wrap up. The LA Rams versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got Tampa Bay at minus 120, LA at plus 105. You think LA can defeat the former champions?
I do, yes. The one thing about LA that I think is really going to cause Tampa Bay problems is Aaron Donald. I mean, to me he's the most dominant defensive player I've ever watched in the NFL. And just his position too. He lines up a lot over the center, over the guard, and it's been proven time and time again now the last 3, 4, 5 years. If you can pressure Brady up the middle and make him uncomfortable, especially early in the game, he not panic isn't the right word, but he definitely starts making some throws quicker than he wants. He doesn't go through his progressions properly. Rams defense, I think, is one of the best in the league, and Aaron Donald's the best player. So I like the Rams to win this game, and Matt Stafford has looked pretty good there so far.
Yeah, like the thing about Aaron Donald is that what makes him so dangerous is that he can pull other the guards and the tackles away from their assignment. So when you can't go one-on-one against him, or else it's going to end up in a sack. So you need to commit that secondary player. And if you have 5 rush versus 5 down linemen, now you're going to have to rely on the running back to take one of the linebackers or whoever comes through that line first, because there's 2 on Aaron Donald. Like, teams have tried to go one-on-one against Aaron Donald. It rarely works. That's why the Rams were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, in case people forgot. But it's one of those things. Were they in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago? Yes, they were. It was the most boring Super Bowl ever versus Tom Brady and the New England Patriots.
Like 10-3 or something.
Yeah, and that's because Aaron Donald was having an MVP-like season. It seems like every year he's in the conversation to win the Defensive Player of the Year. And it's like people just don't learn to not bet against Aaron Donald, basically. He's going to get, even if he doesn't get the sack, he's going to force some pressures, and LA is going to get sacks because of the effect that he has.
Yeah, I mean, well, you said it right. If Aaron Donald's going to get in the backfield, it's just a matter of time. And I think the way that you have to beat the Rams is you have to have a mobile quarterback like a Lamar Jackson, like a Trey Lance, and really sort of eliminate that, what Aaron Donald does best, which is coming up the middle and getting pressure. And, if there's one thing I know about Tom Brady, it's that he's extremely immobile. Let's say he's very slow. I think he has like 110 rushing yards in his career. So he's a definition of a pocket passer, and that plays right into the Rams' hands.
Okay. Are there any other games you want to talk about before we wrap up today, or do you think we've covered it all off?
I don't think so. I think the only game maybe that I am looking at here as a potential upset is the Patriots New Orleans Saints game. Saints are plus 130. I mean, Jameis Winston had a bad game last week, but Patriots also have a rookie quarterback. So, that might be a game I'd look at getting some favorable odds, is take the Saints on the money line at plus 130.
Yeah, I'll take that as well. I think that Patriots, they can't win forever, and I think you're right on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will do it for this week's episode of the UFO Show here on the Area 51 Sports Network. Brought to you by Bet99sportsbook.com. Make sure to head over there, place some bets. You still have time to put in some money on the Blue Jays game if you want to, or the Monday or the Thursday nighter, as well as all of the Sunday football games and the Monday nighter. For Andy, I'm Adam, and thank you once again for joining us here on the UFO Show on the Area 51 Sports Network.